Morning. My name's Peter. Hi. Oh, it's good to see. Hi, good to see you. Hi, I'm Peter. Nice to meet you. Hi. I'm Peter. Maybe you've heard of me. I like to be called Peter the Perplexer. And preachers like to use me as a good illustration of what not to do, who not to be. Because I could be brash, and I can often be impulsive. Sometimes I jump to conclusions far too fast, and I put my foot in my mouth. Now, I'm not here to defend myself. There's no good way to do that. There's no honest way to do that. But I'm here to tell you a little bit about the story that most of you already know. But from my perspective, I just got all caught up in this drama that was being played out in real life with Jesus. And honestly, I had no idea what was going on. It started out really well. Early in the morning, Jesus sent John and I into Jerusalem. He told us to go and find a place for the Passover. And so off we went. And as we wandered the streets of Jerusalem, we found a gentleman there with a pitcher of water, and we asked him about an upper room, and he said, absolutely. We went, and it was all there for us, and we began to prepare for the Passover dinner, just as Jesus said it would be. And that night, as we sat around the table with the other disciples, and we ate dinner together as it was our custom, Jesus took the matzah and the wine, and he did something a little bit different. He broke it, and then he personalized it and said, "This is my body. This is my blood." Now, I was perplexed at really what Jesus was saying, but I didn't really have any time to think about it, because the next thing I knew, Jesus was taking off his outer robe and kneeling down, and he started to wash the disciples' feet, and I was appalled. I mean, how could he? He was Jesus. Have you seen my feet? They were disgusting. We had walked a long way. The road was dusty and dirty. And that job was a job for a slave. And Jesus bent down and washed our feet. And when he came to me, I protested. There was no way Jesus was going to wash my feet. He was my rabbi, my teacher. I would follow him anywhere. He was not washing my feet. And of course, Jesus was upset with me. He said, "Peter, I must wash your feet so that you can belong to me." And I said, "Well, what about my hands and my head and my feet?" He said, "No, Peter, I just need to wash your feet." So what choice did I have but to allow Jesus to wash my feet? He washed all the disciples' feet that night. And as he did so, he said something that was even more perplexing. I mean, we had followed Jesus for 3 years. Traveled with him. We ate with him. We learned from him. We saw his miracles. And then he turned and said, one of you is going to betray me. How absurd is that? We had given up everything to follow after Jesus. And then we all looked at Jesus together and we said, is it I? We had no idea what Jesus was talking about. He handed Judas a piece of bread and he said, Judas, go and do what you must quickly. Now, we didn't have any clue what Judas was going off to do, but he left. And Judas was our treasurer, so maybe he was just going off to give some money to the poor, which was common for Judas to do. And then Jesus again said, where I'm going, you cannot come with me. And I said, Jesus, I will go anywhere with you. I really just wanted to make him happy. And I said, Jesus, I would even die for you. Again, Jesus looks at me and says, Peter, before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will deny me 3 times. And I was in anguish. How could he not trust me? All I wanted to do was to follow him and be his disciple. I wanted to be just like him. And he didn't trust me to do that. But Jesus talked late into the night that night, and we sang a hymn, and then we headed out to the Garden of Gethsemane. It was a beautiful night. He asked some of the disciples to stay behind at the entrance of the garden, and John and James and I went on with Jesus, and he said, stay here and watch, wait while I pray. And I watched Jesus walk off into the garden and fall on his hands and his feet in anguish and pray, Abba, Father, if it pleases you. I don't know how long Jesus prayed. Honestly, I fell asleep. And every time Jesus came back, he had to wake us up. 3 times Jesus came back and he woke us up, and then he went off to pray some more. I just couldn't stay awake. I was so tired. It was a long journey. The 3rd time Jesus came, he looked worn out. He looked like he had been crying tears of blood. His voice had changed, had deepened because of the sorrow that he had been praying. And he said, "Man, you're still sleeping. It's time to get up. The time is now. My betrayer is here." We had no idea what Jesus was saying, what he was talking about. And we got up and we followed him. We rounded the corner of the garden, and there with the other disciples was a mob of people. High priests and religious leaders and guards coming to arrest Jesus. And out from behind them stepped Judas. And Judas walked up to Jesus and kissed his cheek. And Jesus said, "Who do you seek?" "We seek Jesus of Nazareth." And he said, "That is me." And all the guards fell down in worship. Jesus could have ran away. That was his moment. And he didn't. He said, "I am he. I'm the one you seek. Let all the other people around me go, and I will go with you." Certainly God could have delivered him from that moment, and he didn't. They bound Jesus and let him off. we were left in the garden by ourselves. It seemed over. Our leader, our rabbi, was in prison. What were we to do? I'm just a simple fisherman. I had no idea what to do. I went with John. John allowed me to get into the gate of the city. And as we walked through the gate, the lady said, "Aren't you with Jesus? Aren't you one of his disciples?" And no, not me. We walked a little bit further, and there were some guards, and I kind of snuck around the backside just to listen, to see what the gossip was, to see what they knew about Jesus. And one of them turned to me as I warmed my hands by the fire. "Weren't you with Jesus earlier?" "No, not me. I don't know what you're talking about." And then as I turned again, one of the relatives of the guards, the ear that I cut off earlier that night because I was so impulsive and I wanted to defend Jesus, saw me and said, You were in the garden with Jesus. I saw you there." No, it wasn't me. You have the wrong guy. It was not me. And as I turned to walk away, a rooster crowed. I was devastated. How could I? In the moment that Jesus needed me the most, I had denied him 3 times. In the moment that he needed me to defend him, I didn't. I don't really know what happened that night. I was in such anguish and misery. It was all my fault. It was all my fault that Jesus was arrested. I don't know what happened in the courts. Of course, it was kind of a kangaroo court that night and an illegal court case anyway. And all of a sudden, the next day, Jesus was crucified. Surely, it was over. My fate was written, and it was time to head back to the lake. But I couldn't move. I just sat in that upper room, devastated. Until Mary Magdalene came running in on Sunday morning and said, "He's alive." What do you mean he's alive? He's risen. He is not in the tomb. I couldn't believe it. I had to go check it out myself. And I ran to the tomb, and of course, Jesus was not there. But what did that mean? Did somebody take him? It wasn't me. It wasn't any of the other disciples, because we were all locked in the upper room, weeping, wailing, because our leader was dead. We went back to that upper room and locked the door. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know what it meant. And then Jesus appeared in front of us. "Peace be with you," he said. How did he even get in the room? The door was locked. And before we even knew it, we knew it was Jesus. Before we looked at his hands and his side, we knew it was our leader, our rabbi, our Lord. It was an amazing moment. And then he said, "I'm going to send you out." And I thought, well, he's not sending me out anywhere. I had denied him. I had given up on him. I had turned my back on him. He was done with me. My only future was fishing. He was not going to send me anywhere. He was not going to trust me to do anything. I eventually made it back to the Sea of Galilee, and one night took my nets and 6 other guys, and we went fishing. What else was I to do? Fished all night. All night. We caught nothing. As the day dawned, we headed to shore, knowing that nighttime was the best time to fish, and we had caught nothing. And as we got close to shore, there was a fire and a gentleman there on the beach, and he said, "Have you caught anything? Did you catch any fish?" "No." "Well, throw your nets off to the other side." Throw them off to the other side. What was that going to matter? I was a professional fisherman. I knew better. Right side, left side of the boat, what doesn't matter? The best time to fish was at night, and it was daytime, and we were going to catch nothing. So we did it anyway, just to prove him wrong. Well, we caught so many fish. We couldn't even pull them into the boat. And John, he nudged me, and he's like, "That's the Lord on the beach." And I was gone. I jumped out of that boat and I swam to shore and I ran to Jesus. And he says, "Bring some fish with you so we can have a fish fry." Man, what a breakfast that was. Jesus doesn't just do it halfway. That was the best fish fry on the beach ever. And we ate and we talked. And then Jesus turned to me. And he said, "Peter, do you love me?" And he asked me that question 3 times. Just like he said I would deny him 3 times. And he knew. He knew I loved him. He knew my heart better than I knew. He knew I would do anything for him. But sometimes I get ahead of myself. Jesus on that beach forgave me. Now, I don't really understand it all quite yet. How Jesus' death on the cross is forgiveness, is restoration, is everything. But Jesus knew. God knew that Jesus was the perfect sacrifice. There would never, ever need to be another sacrifice. Jesus was the once and only sacrifice needed for our sin. And all the mistakes that I made and all the blunders that happened in my life, Jesus forgave me. He commissioned me to go and be a leader in his church. And if he can do that for me, think of what he could do for you on this Easter Sunday. On this day when we remember that Jesus has risen. He has forgiven us. He has restored us. He loves you. There is room on the cross, below the cross, for you and for me, for forgiveness of sin. If you don't know Jesus today, if you've never not experienced His love and His grace, His forgiveness, then I invite you to come and to receive that love and forgiveness yourself.